Hello and welcome, dear listener, to the very first episode of your new podcast, I See You, a safe space for parents, where each guest gets to share their own story and will be seen not just as a parent, but as the human being they are. My guest today is the lovely Gianna Piazza. What an incredible name, by the way. We will have to talk about that. I
Thank
love the
you.
name. Um, But before we dive in, just very quickly, as you listen to this episode, you might find yourself thinking, that sounds so interesting. I want to connect with Gianna. And I got you covered. I will put all the contact information in the description below. All right, Gianna, let's get started. So, first of all, of course, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
I
you for
can't
having
wait
me.
to talk to you this hour. And you have shared a few details with me up front. Um, you are a mom of three, and you also told me that you decided to leave familiar structures and that you started your own business at some point. Would you be so kind as to tell us a little bit more about your life? How does it look currently? What's your life look like?
Of course. Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for having me on and congratulations to you for bringing this space and this platform into the world. I think it's a beautiful mission and I hope that you have all of the success in the world.
Thank you
I
so
am a
much.
mom of three. I have a daughter and two sons, and was currently working in the education system. For about close to 20 years, I'd say, in various roles. And more recently, in the last 5 years or so, I retired from that system and became self-employed, leading and growing a business that is soul-led and family first. So currently, I have to say this space, this journey has brought me so much freedom, time freedom, um, calendar freedom, travel freedom. Like it's just opened up so many doors for me, but most importantly, it's given me the time and the presence that I've wanted with my kids. And I don't think that I would have had that had I not been through the journey that I was in initially.
Mhm. All right. How old are your kids?
So my daughter is 11 and one son is 9 and then the other son is 8. So they're all very close in age.
Mhm.
So we're at a great stage now of, we love each other 1 minute and then they want to go at it and hurt each other the next minute and then they're best friends again in 2 minutes. So I mean, there's a lot of emotions and hormones and things flying about and
Mhm.
just life transitions in general. I mean, we could probably go really deep here, but I mean, just for context, like, my daughter's hitting those early teenage years, and so she's going through her own kind of like identity shifts. And then our youngest doesn't want to be identified as a baby anymore. He's like, I'm 8, like, I'm not a baby. I want to do my own thing. And sometimes that can be hard for everybody to kind of adjust to and and everyone's just trying to really develop their own identity and grow, and so I think it's really important to give each of us the space to be able to do that while also honoring the pieces that they're leaving behind, I guess, or not taking with them.
Mhm.
Because that can be hard as the relationships begin to change in our home, right? So, but it's all beautiful. And I think truthfully, the most important thing for me has been just keeping open communication with my husband and my kids. And so it's super important to give them space to feel what they're feeling and to talk about whatever that is, right?
Mhm.
Because in my experience, I mean, holding that in, suppressing thoughts and feelings, physically doesn't do well for your body, but then you're carrying that, you can be carrying that for years and years, right? And then it comes out into future relationships, into
Mhm.
adulthood.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
And I love that you're referring to um, all of your needs. So when you're talking, you're not just talking about your kids, you're also talking about yourself and I guess about your husband as well. Um, so tell me a little bit more about how you view this like your own needs as the a part of parenting?
Oh, yeah, I love this question. And I love it because truthfully, for a long time, I felt that putting my needs, I always knew deep down that putting my needs at the top of, as a standard was a priority. But for some reason, whether it's what we're taught, whether it's cultural, whether it's societal, whatever it is, I almost felt like shame for that. And
Mm,
especially in the beginning stages of motherhood, it's like once you become a mom, that is your identity, and you sacrifice and you put them first and you do all the things. And it's like, and so I knew deep down, like I needed time away. I needed nights out. I needed time for myself, whatever that looked like, whether it was a bath, whether it was coffee with my friends, whether it was a date night with my husband. And I always felt so guilty doing that for myself, but I knew from the very beginning that I needed that in order to be the best mom that I could be. I just didn't know
mhm,
yet how to put that into words. And so there was a lot of struggle there, I think, at the beginning, um, and a lot of guilt.
mhm,
And often, so there would be times where I didn't put my needs first, and then I felt like I became very resentful.
mhm.
And I share that in the book. I wrote a book this year. I'm writing. I'm
Mm,
currently in the process of writing my book, but it comes out this fall, and parenting is a huge, it is the book. And it's really mainly about how parenting and becoming a mother has grown and shifted and evolved my identity, but also allowed me to be able to go back and reparent myself and to
mm,
tend to my needs so I can be the best mother for my kids and the best spouse for my husband that I can be. But I think
mhm,
that recognizing that, yes, you have your own needs because you are your own individual person, and honoring those needs doesn't make you selfish. It actually does quite the opposite. It makes you a more grounded, a more peaceful, a more fun, a more pleasant version of yourself. And so for a long time, I felt
mhm,
like I had to separate all of those identities. I was like mom over here and then employee over here and wife here and daughter here and all the separate identities and I could only have fun in with my friends and I had to be a serious parent with my kids and then I realized like no, I am the sum of all of these identities.
mm,
And so
mhm,
why not invite all parts of me in together? And that really shifted my world for me because then I started bringing my kids into the things that brought me joy versus me
mhm,
needing to separate from them to go and have fun and have my joy. Now, don't get me wrong, like there's still things that obviously their ages and their abilities and like there's still things they can't do yet with me, but something like let's say zip lining. I went zip lining a few years ago and my one son's like, "Mom, I want to come with you," but he was little. So like stuff like that adventurous part of me, I don't want to separate from my kids. But
mm,
it's also knowing like the time when the timing is right, right? To have them come into those
mhm,
parts. But to go back on what I said, yeah, I think that allowing yourself to nourish your soul and to tend to those needs actually makes you the most grounded parent that you can possibly be for your family.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because only when your cup is full, right, then you can pour into others.
Hmm.
It's
It for
that's
sure. And
the
I find
base.
it, yeah, and I find it interesting because mothers would do anything for their kids. Like they, and I see it in my work. I've seen it in my work even when I was in the school system. It's like parents would do anything for their kids. They will sign their kids up. They will bring them to the appointments. They will, do all the things for them. But then when it comes to doing something for themselves, they're so resistant and they're so hesitant. And I think there's various reasons for that, obviously. But I think one of them is comes to self-worth, and it's sometimes women or mothers don't feel like they're worthy enough of investing the time and the money on themselves because it would be better spent on their kids or their family. But what's been a huge game changer for me and a lot of my clients is that you are the ripple that creates the change. And so I've never regretted one investment I've made in myself whether it turned out the way I wanted to or not, there are definitely things that I've learned from that and brought into my home because that's where it all
Mhm,
stems first, right? First for you and then for your family and then for everybody else in the world.
mhm, absolutely. And you said that um, even early on you kind of felt like your needs were important, but you were not able to tend to them, to actually like bring this topic up and deal with this. And at some
Hmm.
point you did become aware of it, like very clearly, and then you tended to your needs, and you started also your healing journey a little bit more through being a mom. um, would you share with us like what brought you to this awareness, and what helped you to like allow yourself to actually look at yourself and go onto this journey?
Of course, of course. So like I said to you, I had the awareness very early on that there was like this push and pull of like I knew I needed this freedom, this space, there were needs that I wanted met. Um, and I just in the early stages of motherhood, I didn't know how to express that, and so a lot of it came out very like resentfully, or blaming if I didn't get that time to myself. And so for me, it wasn't that I didn't have the awareness that I had these needs. It was I wasn't able to express them and to
Mm,
act on them in a way that was respectful for everybody else around me. It would often
mhm,
be like well, you don't understand how much I do and I need this, or I wouldn't tend to my needs and then I'd become resentful and blame people for it. So for me, that was the kind of aha moment. Truthfully, my husband was like something needs to shift here because you're coming home and we're kind of getting the worst of you. And he was
mhm,
right. I was giving a lot of my attention and my patience and, everything to my job. And then because I worked full time and had that guilt weighing on me of I'm already away from my kids so many hours a day, so I can't take time for myself in the evenings or on the weekends, that rippled into my home. And so that him bringing that up to me was my first kind of like activating moment where I'm like, okay, something needs to shift here. And that's when I started seeing a therapist who was also an energy healer. And so I had always
mhm,
been open to different kinds of modalities and therapies. And I think it's great to have somebody to connect to and talk with outside of your circle because there's that piece of non-attachment there. And so doing that kind of opened up my world to energetics. And then furthermore, I learned about Reiki, and that was really the trajectory for my transformation, I want to say. Just
mm,
because that lens was a lens of look at what's possible versus look at what's wrong, which sometimes I think therapy can have
mhm,
us sitting in a place of look at all the things that are going wrong and and past childhood experiences, and inner child healing is so important, and it's a huge piece of part of my work that I do with clients now. But then it's like what can we do from that place, right? So it's yes, let's go and let's work and sit with the child in the shadows and all of those things, but how do we move forward from that? And so Reiki for me was
mhm,
really the trajectory into the lens of look at what's possible when you open your heart and you're living from a heart space versus
mhm,
living from your body and just moving and going with emotions and
mhm,
living with this armor, which is really what I felt like I was living with, is just I'd put my armor on every day and off to work I went and home and motherhood and living the autopilot life. And so Reiki really opened up my world to something different and allowed me to start slowing down and receiving and looking at things from a different lens, but mostly looking at myself from a different lens,
mm, mhm,
from a lens of compassion and love and forgiveness.
mhm. Um, what, like, if you would have to weigh the the I'm going to say two parts, it's not just two parts, but looking and at and talking about past experiences and working through this, and then like going further and looking into the future and letting go of old stuff. How would you weigh those two? Would you think like you could leave the first one completely behind, or would you say as a parent you need that in order to understand yourself um, properly, so you understand you the way you behave and you act with your children?
Oh, definitely. I would not say don't leave it behind because your childhood impacts a huge part of how you move in this world as an adult, even if you're not a parent. But especially if you're a parent, because truthfully, our children are the biggest mirrors for us, and they really show us the parts of us. They really show us the parts of ourselves that haven't been healed yet, or the parts of ourselves that were great and that maybe we've forgotten as we grew older and felt
Mm,
like we needed to carry all of this responsibility and seriousness. Like I could tell you, each one of my kids is a mirror for different parts of me.
mm,
And I share this in my book. Like my daughter, truthfully, is a mirror for me to be able to have more compassion
mhm,
for myself so I can have more compassion for her. My middle son, he is the mirror of life is so fun. Go be a kid. Like he brings out the inner child in me where it's like anything's possible. Like let's try this. That's so cool. And then my younger son is the part of me that I felt I couldn't be as a child or that I struggled with because he's so anchored in who he is and he does not waver for anybody. And it's like I'm not gonna follow the
mm,
crowd regardless of what they're doing if it doesn't feel right for me. And so I really admire that about him. And so
mm,
looking at my kids from a lens of like, what are you here to teach me? Um,
mm,
so I could heal and connect and reconnect with inner parts of my child so we can have the best relationship. So I don't think that leaving your inner child behind is helpful. I do think, though, that it's important to acknowledge it, to sit with it, to ask what it's showing you, and to be there for that part of you, for that inner child, while then moving forward with the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience that you have now as an adult. So,
mm,
a mentor that I worked with actually put it quite beautifully. She said, our journey in life is like a spiral staircase. So, we're on this, revolving staircase in a glass building. And the more that we grow and evolve, we look out the window and our life experiences are still there, all of them from childhood, from teenage, from young adulthood. And the only thing is that we're looking at them from a different lens now. We're looking at them from a higher lens. Every time we evolve, it's a different lens. And so that really stuck with me because I think for a long time I tried to kind of shoo away parts of me, right? And it was very
mm,
hard for me to acknowledge or speak about things that I felt in my childhood or that happened to me, or just even the way that I understood things to be. Um, but being able to sit with that part of me at different ages, because there was a lot of shame there and like how, maybe choices I made when I was younger and how I acted or didn't act or how I stood up for myself or didn't stand up for myself. And now it's like, no, I can look at her and say, like, you did the best with the skills that you had at that time. And knowing that, I can have compassion for
mm,
her and sit with her. And so I don't feel like I have to carry her, or I don't feel like I don't have to carry her anymore, but I also don't have to leave her behind. I can come back to her and acknowledge her whenever she needs that love and compassion, and then I can move forward in who I am today.
mm.
And I want
Yeah.
that for my kids too, right? I don't want them to hold on to any mistakes that they make or hold on to resentment that, from experiences that have happened in their life with people, because that only weighs on your heart and you don't want to carry that around.
Hmm. Absolutely. My absolute favorite quote is by Maya. Um, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you
Mm.
know better, do better. And I love
Yeah,
this so much because it allows us ourselves with so much self-compassion. Because like you said, you are always doing the best you can with the tools you have and the knowledge you have at the time. So
exactly.
there's no need to beat yourself up about it.
No, but I think
Um,
a lot of moms do. I think that there's this like level of perception where it's like we need to be perfect, but it's like perfect to who? Like
mhm,
what perfect looks like in your home is different than what it looks like in my home. And truthfully, I've had my biggest breakthroughs through the mistakes, if you want to call them mistakes, that I've made. And so Like I hate the idea that, we feel like we're not good enough or we always need to do better or be better. It's like, no, you know what? Now I welcome, pardon my language, like the fuck ups that I make. I
Mm.
welcome the times that I mess up as a parent because those are the moments where I'm shown, oh, this is actually not how I want to be or feel. And then from that place I make the decision of desire. And it's like, okay, well then who do I want to be? And if I want to be this kind of parent, how would I be living and moving and acting?
Hmm. Yeah. And it's not only valuable for yourself, it's also super valuable for your kids. Because I think a huge reason why so many parents nowadays have the feeling that they have to be perfect is that the previous generations pretended to be perfect and to know it
Mhm.
all, and that a parent doesn't is not allowed to make mistakes, and then the same mindset is child who then grows up thinking, now I have to be perfect as a parent, which is not true at all. So you're doing yourself a favor, you're doing your child or your kids a favor in showing them that it's okay to mess up, because that's just human, that's what everyone does.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
also in how to deal with this, that's
Hmm.
so valuable. So it's even better for your kids to fuck up every once in a while.
Yeah, right. It is, and this is a conversation I've had with my daughter, and it's like why do I have these challenges in my life? And I'm like, because God is here to show you something. Like there's something for you to learn from it, and when you're in it, it's very hard to see, and I get that, and so maybe we're not ready to see it right now, but down the road, you will be like, there will be a moment where you're like, I understand why that
Mm-hmm.
happened for me, right? And who it showed me I am or who it showed me I don't want to be or so I do agree. I think that we did live in a world where a lot of parents like perception was very big in our parents' generation, and it was like for them it was a lot about what it looked like, whereas now we're
Mm-hmm.
coming into a world and a collective where it's not what it looks like, but it's more about what it actually is. And
Mm-hmm.
there's still, I think our generation is moving through the transition of that. And so there is still some like polarity of like, oh, but what are people going to think and say? But our true selves, no, like, no, truth is the strongest frequency, as one of my mentors said as well. And it's like, it's true. Like, you will be able to connect and make more of an impact in this world being the truth of who you are than making it look like what you think it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm. I would like to circle back a little bit to what you said earlier. You said that um, at some point your husband came to you and said that something needs to change, and you were obviously able to take it and then go from there. What would you say like was important in your relationship and maybe in the way he communicated it to you that made you able to actually take this in instead of resisting it and then maybe attack or whatever kind of
Mhm.
reaction that could lead to?
Yeah, I think, well, I know for sure it was his delivery of it. He didn't come and speak to me from a place of judgment. It was like you're not your best self right now, and this is rippling into our home. And so something needs to change here for all of us. And I had already at that point was aware that I was burnt out and not feeling fulfilled anymore. I just didn't know what to do with it, I guess. And so him bringing that to my attention was like, it was kind of like the fire in the butt that I needed to be like, okay, like let's do something about this. And so that's when I had reached out to somebody for therapy. And through that experience, I had remained very open to like, let's just try it and see where it can go. My why behind it was because I didn't want this life for my family. I didn't want my family to get the worst parts of me. I didn't start a family for that reason. I started a family to bring the best parts in and create life and memories. And so that was my why. He just activated the fire within me to do it because he came and spoke to me from a place of compassion rather than a place of judgment. which I think
Mhm.
is very important in relationships in general, not even just marriages, but communication is everything. And actually, delivery is even more than the communication
Mhm.
because you can communicate with somebody, but it's how do you deliver and express what you're trying to say? That can make or
Mhm.
break relationships. And that's something that I think we've really held key even in our parenting. It's, when our kids share things with us, initially you may be very activated emotionally, but are you going to let those emotions lead you in how you respond? Because sometimes if you do, and I can tell you from like personal experience as a child, sometimes it shuts you off, right? The way that
Mhm.
your parents can respond to you. And not that it's whether or not they're yelling, but it's more so even in the words that they're saying, right? Like, is it coming from a
Mhm.
place of fear? Is it coming from a place of projection? Is it, where is it coming from? And so, really allowing yourself to learn how to feel the feelings, but not be led by them. And of course, there's still
Mhm.
times, I'm going to be honest, like there's times and seasons where things are happening and I'm reactive because I'm human. Like it is what it is. If you have
Mhm.
things piled up on your plate or as a woman, like depending where you are in your cycle hormonally, like I could tell you there's weeks where I'm like a lot less patient than other weeks. But my kids know that. And it's funny because they will now say to me like, "Oh, mom, is it that time? Because you're yelling a bit more than you normally do. Normally you don't yell at us." And I'm like, "I know." So they're even aware of that. But again, like sitting down and
Mhm.
having those conversations from a pure place rather than a reactive place makes all the difference. And so that's something that my husband and I really try to do and be mindful of is being very mindful of our reactions when our kids share things with us and allowing them the space to share without bringing our feelings into the context or into the conversation.
Mhm. Yeah, and it shows that they feel safe if they are able to say, "Hey, mom, is it that time of month? You're
Yeah.
yelling a little bit more." I mean, that takes courage, and they need to feel safe in order to say something like this. So that's amazing that they
Yeah.
have this
Yeah.
this space.
Yeah. It's actually one of my sons that has said that to me. And I'm like, wow, like that's very um a way like good observation, like you're very in tune to be able to recognize that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So one day his wife will thank him.
Yes.
Because he'll be a lot more
Maybe thank
sensitive with her when it's her cycles.
maybe she will thank you someday.
Yeah, maybe she will.
Um, would you say that you are good at asking for help?
I would say that I've gotten better at asking for help. I was not
Mhm.
good at asking for help. I will say that. I really wore the armor of like, I'm hyper independent. I can do it all myself. And that was part of the ripple that kind of brought me into the transformation because I couldn't do it all myself anymore and I was burnt out and that was part of it and it was needing to ask for help and so there's still moments where I struggle with that. I'm not going to lie. I just had an incident where I fell down some stairs in my garage, and so I was really hurt. I hurt my tailbone, and I was out of commission for a good couple of weeks. But immediately, I was able to call my mom and be like, "Can you come and help? Mike's gonna do this with the kids. Mike's my husband. I need you here to help us." And so, in those moments, I have gotten a lot better at asking for help. Now, there's still times again where I like to be independent. So I don't think that I struggle asking for help because I need it, but it's more so I will ask for help when I feel like I've reached my capacity and I'm about to break, I guess, right? So in order to prevent me from breaking, I've recognized my limit is what I'm trying to say. I've recognized my limit and it's like, okay, now I can ask for help. The one thing I've really learned um, is to be able to accept help without asking for it. So that
Mm.
yes, that was a big thing for me because I had people in my life wanting to help and I would always shut them down and I still sometimes kind of waver with that. That's something I'm still really working on, I think, but it became I'll ask you for help when I need it, but if you don't give me the space to know when I need it, I can't ask you for help, right? But really just finding the gratitude in the fact that there are so many people that want to help in different areas of my life, whether it's my kids or my parents or community. And so allowing yourself to receive that, without needing to ask for it first can
Hmm.
be challenging, but it's definitely something that I've noticed in myself and I'm trying to be more open to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the question that comes to mind when you say this is like, how can you differentiate between someone truly wants to help and someone is overstepping maybe a boundary? That does that happen as well, or is that not part of the equation when you say people want to help without you asking?
So I will use the example of my mom because I love her so much, and she is the one that's always wanting to help, where I'm like, Mom, like I have sometimes felt like it's overstepping a boundary, right? Just
Mm.
because it's like I know that you love to help, but again, like I will ask for help when I feel like I need something to have helped, right? Like if, if you don't give me the space, because it's been a conversation where she would be like, you don't ask me for help. And I'm like, because you don't give me the opportunity to ask you for help. So let me find the space to ask and see where I need help because I will. I will ask for help when I need it, whether it's, can you pick up the kids from school or can you, come over and watch them while I run an errand or, I'm in a meeting, whatever that looks like. So I think it's just kind of learning each other and how we like to move in our relationships. And my mom, by nature, is a very caring and helpful person. And so she's learned that I'm a very independent person and that I need to recognize on my own where and when I need help. And so just keeping those lines again of communication open of like, I'm available if you need me. Okay, great. I'm actually good this week, or, I'm good today, but I'll connect with you tomorrow and see what I need. So again, I think it comes back to having those open lines of communication and the delivery of that being proactive versus reactive.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, and that takes a strong, healthy relationship as well to be able to say things like this to your own mom, right?
Definitely. And I think it comes with maturity and learning and experience. And it's knowing like my mom comes from a good place and so do I. I'm
Hmm.
not turning her away because I don't want to be around her. I'm just not turning her away, but I'm just not needing the help in the moment because maybe it's something that only I can do, let's say, right?
Hmm.
If it's booking an appointment for one of my kids, like that's something that I need to do myself. And so recognizing where kind of all of our roles play into each other's relationships is important, but it does definitely come with experience and learning. And again, looking at like, okay, who do I want to be in this moment? Because there have been times where I have felt like a boundary's been crossed, not just with my mom, but just in general. And again, it used to come out very reactively. But
Hmm.
recognizing and sitting with myself, and I think that's really what it takes is being able to sit with yourself and learn who you are and what activates you and what your limits are and what your standards are in relationships to be able to then communicate and say, okay, this is what I need or this is what I appreciate and this is what's a non-negotiable for me. Um, but again, it comes down to taking that time with yourself, and for your family.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. You mentioned earlier that there are different parts of you. You called them identities. So you are not just a mom, you're also a woman, you're a wife, you're a daughter. Would you say that you feel seen as all of those identities, or is there like maybe one part that doesn't get enough attention in your opinion?
I think now I feel seen in all of those identities. For a long time,
Mhm.
I didn't. I felt like I was only putting on the mom armor every day, or this armor, and I felt like other roles, like let's say daughter, were taking a back seat. because of the season of life that my kids were at, or whatever that was. But I think that and now I've done a pretty good job, and I'm still like it's still a work in progress, of course, but I feel like because I don't feel like all of those identities are separate anymore. I allow myself to be all of them whenever they need to come out, right? And so I don't feel the guilt anymore for taking a meeting when my kids are home because it's like, no, that's part of who I am, and they understand that and they respect that. And then it's like because I'm doing this now, then I get to be with you this weekend or be later tonight or be at your sporting event, right? And so they understand that too, and it's allowed me a lot of space to move in what feels aligned versus what I feel like what I think I need to be. And so I have space in my calendar today. Yeah, I want to go and spend time with my parents. And so I'm stepping into that daughter identity today. And then later on, I'm going to go and pick up my kids early and we're going to go for a hike and I'm going to be like in full mom mode. And if I want to share that on social media as part of my, soulfully connected identity, then I will. And if not, then I just keep that my little mom bubble, right? And I think that that's okay too. I
Mm.
think that we don't necessarily need to share all parts of our life with everybody in the world.
Mm.
I think it's nice to be able to honor and to keep some things just for the moment.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I do to
Absolutely.
answer your
That
question, I
is
don't,
always,
yeah, I don't think that my
yeah.
identities, any one identity specifically takes a back seat anymore. I think it's where you are in your life and the seasons and more so about what feels aligned than trying to force something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to
And
do things because I feel like I should, right? I do them because it's what feels
mm,
aligned for me.
yeah, that's a big thing to leave the should behind.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah. Um, do you feel seen and appreciated as a mom in general? And if so, by whom?
Do I feel seen and appreciated as a mom in general? I definitely feel seen and appreciated as a mom by my kids. They are first and foremost. And I can say that with honesty, like even at their worst moments, I know that they love me and appreciate me, and I don't think that they can fully see what being the identity of a mother is because they've never experienced it, but they definitely do know and appreciate me as a mother. And they've told me and they've shown me through their affection and through their love. And sometimes they will come to me and be like, Mom, you do a lot. And like, how do you do it all? Or you make it look so easy. Like, how do you make it look so easy? And I'm like, well, it's not. Thank you. But I've also done a lot of work to get to a place where it feels easy, right? Most of the time, not all
Mm,
of the time. Like definitely they go through things and we go through things as a family, but I do feel seen and appreciated by them as a mother, definitely by my husband. He values everything that I do in our home for our family. And I think too in connecting with other mothers, right? Like we inspire each other just through conversation. And it's like there's no competition. There's no, well, you do this, and so it makes me less of a mom, or look at me, I'm better because I do this. It's like, no, everyone's doing what they need to do for their family. And there's no right or wrong in that. And so I think that there should be an appreciation across the board for mothers in that sense.
mm-hmm. 100%.
Hmm.
Yeah. In dads as well. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say
Yeah,
it's
of
moms
course,
and dads.
because of
Yeah.
course it's a partnership. And I truthfully, I think that some dads don't get enough credit because sometimes moms are around more, and I can speak to that like
Mm,
in our home because of now the life that we've been able to create for our family. I am home and I am present more than my husband is. And he still comes home and he is present with our kids and he coaches and he takes them to sporting events and he plays with them and like they create memories, and I think that dads often don't get a lot of the recognition, just because moms are often the more present, active parent in the sense of like, we're the organizers, we're the grocery shoppers, we plan the parties, we take them to the appointments. But behind the scenes, who's kind of making that all possible? And my husband and I have
Mm,
had this conversation often, and I think what works really well for us is that I do more of the forefront with our family and our home, but then he takes care of me and he makes sure that
mm,
I feel supported and I'm given like time to rest and that's again that goes to like what works for us. There's other
mhm,
relationships where people are like, nope, it's 50-50. Like I pull this weight, he pulls that weight, or like he provides the finances and I do this. And so it's again whatever works for you, but I think it's so important to sit down and have that conversation of what do we
mm,
want our family to look like and to move like. And so for us, it was really important, for both of us that I'm home more because when I was moving through that transition of working with the school board and I was off of work on a medical leave, the whole energy of our home shifted. And again, my husband brought that to my attention and he was like, "Do you notice that the energy in this house has shifted since you've been home? Like, there's no more rushed energy. Like, we're not racing to before and after care for school and, whipping up meals at the last minute or ordering in or whatever it is. It's like women, mothers, I think, are the heart of the home and the way that we feel impacts and ripples into everybody around us, even into our spouses. And so
mm,
looking at each other, and then I heard this the other day, it's like we are like shepherds and our children are like our sheep, and we are leading them to new pastures. But our spouses are also shepherds. And so we have to learn how to shepherd and lead together. And so it's really about seeing each other as equal and sitting down and having those conversations with each other again of like, what do we want our family to look like in our home? And then so what does that require us to be for each other? What does that look like? And so there will be days where I'm like, listen, Mike, like I'm tapped out today. I've been with the kids all day. I've got like 2% left in my tank. So we need to like switch off. But I will always check in and be like, do you have the ability to switch off with me? Because if you're running on 2% too, then that's not going to be good for anybody, right? So it's like, what do we do
mm,
in that case? Do we surrender and just let tonight be a free fall? Or, do we do what we need to do to try and reground an anchor and then tackle this together or, whatever that looks like. Yeah, definitely though, it's comes back down to knowing what you want for your family and communicating that with each other.
yeah. I think what you're saying is absolutely key, that you need to proactively communicate and talk about this. There's
Hmm.
no such thing as you need to see what I need without me saying a word. That you have to say a word,
Yes, and
and you.
that used to be one of my biggest problems is like I would just build and build and build and then be like I'd blow up and be like, does nobody see like all the things I've done and da 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 and I'm running on empty. And so it's taken a lot for me to recognize and it comes back to that asking for help, right? Recognizing like what's my limit?
Mm,
And it's like, okay, like I can
mm,
take on this, this, and this. But now I'm getting to that point where I can catch myself, and it's that awareness piece of like, I catch myself when my tone is starting to change or when my body's tensing up. And that's my clue to be like, okay, I need a minute. We need to shift gears here, whatever that looks like, right? Take the dog for a walk and come back.
mm,
Like, so, but yeah, keeping those lines of communication open and doing them proactively versus reactively.
mhm,
Because I think that's a
mhm,
huge piece too. And that's something I work on with a lot of my clients is like, how do we communicate from a proactive place where we're not led by our emotions, right? Versus
mhm,
a reactive. Because then when you're reactive, things start coming up from like months past or even years sometimes, right? And then an
mhm,
argument or a conversation that could have been resolved within minutes now becomes this big blow up where you're not talking for days. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I always put it as responding versus reacting. Would
Yes.
like consciously responding with the upper parts of your brain instead of like reacting with the lower parts, the primitive parts of your brain.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. All right, my dear, we are pretty far into the hour already, and I have three rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, yes, let's do this. I just did rapid fire questions with my son this morning. I love this.
Hmm. Okay, so the first is who inspires you a lot currently?
Who inspires me a lot currently?
Mhm.
Hmm, who inspires me a lot? I would say my kids right now, to be honest. My kids are my inspiration. Yeah.
All right, it's a big one.
Yes, yeah. Well, they're all moving through different seasons of their life, and so taking and seeing like where they're showing up for themselves is making me realize like, wow, I love that quality about you. Like, how can I put that and try that on for myself?
Hmm. It makes my heart smile when you say stuff like this. The second question, what is your favorite thing to do when your kids are not around?
Oh, well, I would say it depends on the day, but truthfully, I love being outside. I love going for hikes. I love being by the water, bike rides, walks with the dog when the kids are not around. And I love, my husband and I have been doing this for quite some time now, just date days, where we will take the day to be with each other and just whatever that looks like. We could be doing our own thing at home, but we're doing it together. And so that's something that I've really loved doing this past year.
Wonderful. Okay, the last question. What is a message that you would love to leave with all the parents out there?
Oh. What's coming to my heart is that our children are our mirrors, and each one of them carries a gift that is here to bring out a little piece of yourself that could either maybe require more love or that could remind you of how amazing you are, but stay open to them. Even in the moments when you want to close your heart out of frustration or guilt or whatever that looks like, stay open because there's always something to learn because our children are our teachers.
Mm, Wonderful. Thank you so much. Gianna, I have one last question. Where's the name from? That sounds so Italian. Are you
It is
Italian?
very Italian. Gianna Piazza, yes. Actually, I inherited it from my grandmother. Her name was Giovanna. And when I was born, my mom traditionally you take the firstborn takes the name of the husband's mother or father, and so being a girl, it would have been my grandmother. But my mom was like, that feels like a little bit outdated to me. I don't, it doesn't really resonate. And so someone had said to her, well, why don't you call her Janna? And she's like, it's a little bit, more modern. And my mom's like, yes, I love it. But the funny thing is, growing up, I did not like my name. I will be honest, because nobody could pronounce it. Every year I would start a
Oh.
new grade. The teacher could not pronounce my name. Still, as an adult, I would go into different schools or work with different clients, and people would be like, I don't know, could you teach me how to say your name? And so it kind of just became like a laughing joke, but now I totally embrace it. And so I do love it. I've learned to love it. But it's funny because when I was pregnant with my children, I had said to my husband, all of these kids will have names that are very easily pronounced, that they sound exactly the way they look. And so that's exactly what's happened. We have Simona, Nicholas, and Luca, and it's beautiful. But I have definitely learned to love my name. And so thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Yeah. My first name is actually Italian as well.
Katarina,
So
yes.
Katerina, the way it's written, the other one with the K is the Russian one,
I was
and
going to
the
say the
one,
C. Yeah.
yes, yes, the one that I'm carrying is the Italian version, and I love my name as well.
It's beautiful. Now, do people shorten it or do people tend to call you by your full name?
Growing up, no one called me by my real name, not even my parents, not even in stressful situations, never ever. So I always grew up with a lot of different nicknames.
Wow.
And when I moved away and when I started studying for the first time, I was like, I cannot introduce myself with a nickname. So now I have to actually say my real name, which was foreign to me because I didn't identify with it really at that point.
Yes.
But since then, I've come to love it. But I also still have a lot of different nicknames.
And that's okay too. It comes back to the
Yeah.
identity piece, right? It's like when you're around
Yes.
certain people, it's like you're this person, you're that person. And I notice that even with my kids, like their friends will start giving them nicknames. And when I was pregnant, I said that to my husband too. I was like, we have to look at all of the possible nicknames that this child could have with this name. Because if there's something that I don't like, and sure enough, like there are some of my kids' friends that will call them by a nickname where I'm like, ugh, I don't really, but whatever. You know what? If my kids are okay with it, then that's fine by me. And if they're not, then I just tell them to let people know what they prefer to be called. So, but I think it changes and
Hmm.
adapts too with as their identity evolves and changes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Absolutely. All right, my dear. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me as a busy self-employed mom.
Of course,
I
I love
love,
these conversations. Thank you so much for having me
yes.
on.
Well, thank you. I've loved to talk to you, and well, maybe we'll talk again someday.
Yes, I would
But
love that.
for now, I'm gonna say goodbye and much love to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Hmm.